President Hawkins, this is Andrew. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Is the volume on your end low or is it normal volume?
Normal.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Hi, Tom.
Morning.
Evening.
Today went quick enough for it to be morning still. Hello, Brooke.
Hello.
Brooke, we got to get Tom a Yorba Linda Water District shirt.
I think so. Got to be in uniform here.
Well, it's 6:30, but I'm only seeing the three of us right now. Oh, I see Trudy on.
Here.
Oh, and there's Wayne.
Yeah, I'm here.
And Wayne's here.
Sorry, I wasn't scrolling down. So I'm gonna Annie or Brett. Is it okay to get started, or are we waiting for anybody?
I believe all the directors are connected. Thank you.
Okay, then let's get started. I'm going to call to order the Yorba Linda Water District Board of Directors regularly scheduled meeting for Tuesday, June 8th at 6:30. With that, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Annie, can I get roll call?
Yes, Director Lindsay,
I'm here.
Director DeRoche,
Here.
Director Jones,
Here?
Vice President Miller,
Here?
President Hawkins.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, that moves us down to our public comment section. This public comment section will be opening up. If you wish to speak on a matter related to the in the public hearing that is not on the agenda. So if you're here to discuss comments on the water rates, hold that off until we get to that section, or anything else on the agenda. If you'd like to speak in the public comment section on something that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand by pressing *9 on your telephone or selecting the raise your hand on the icon on the Zoom. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and the secretary will call your name. So when the secretary calls your name, then you'll be activated to speak and you'll have 3 minutes. Just try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I think we're going to have a number of speakers tonight. So at this time, if there's any public comment on anything not on the agenda, now would be the time to raise your hand so you could speak. I'm not seeing any. Annie, are you seeing anything?
Yes, we do have one individual, Ben Peralta, who has raised his hand.
Okay, please go ahead and unmute Ben.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can
I'm
hear you,
having
Ben.
problems with my, hopefully you can hear me. I'm having trouble with hearing you guys, but thank you board for the opportunity to address the board regarding this important public hearing and the rate schedule. I have a statement here I'd like to quickly read. After reading the flyer the district sent regarding the proposed water and sewer rate schedule, I was very surprised at the high rate increases, as well as the timing of them, considering we are just coming out of the difficult COVID economic impacts to the economy. Many residents and businesses have struggled economically over the past 15 months and have had to make difficult financial decisions to reduce spending and find ways to do more with less. I am speaking today to protest against the proposed water and sewer rate schedule that would significantly increase water rates and bills for Yorba Linda Water District customers over the next 5 years. The proposed water commodity rate would increase 31% over this time period. In addition, the fixed monthly base charge for over 90% of your customers would increase from 63 to 75% over this time period. Those are double-digit increases each year over that time period. The multitude of proposed new fees and rate increases would have a significant impact on residential water bills. My typical water bill would increase about 42% over this time period as well. With proper and prudent financial planning and management, there should be adequate funds to enable the district to use a portion of the rate stabilization reserve and operating reserve to assist in smoothing out water rate increases and cover temporary cash flow deficiencies. I did notice in the amended 2021 operating budget that there's a projected net income of $3 million. Finally, the water sewer rates take into consideration the size of households and parcel sizes. My wife and I have 4 children, including 3 teenage daughters, and reside on a lot that requires a lot of indoor and outdoor water usage, which makes it difficult to conserve water. I strongly urge the board to consider impacts to their customers and reduce spending and delaying CIP projects instead of significantly increasing rate fees to their customers and constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. I wish you would have waited till 7.1. So is there anybody else looking to, at this time, we're taking public comment on anything that is not agendized. So if it's not on the agenda and you'd like to point it out to our attention, now would be the time. Are you seeing anybody else?
We do have a Mike Collins who did have his hand raised, but we can call him again during the public hearing if that's when he would like to speak.
You said he had his hand raised and then lowered it?
Yes.
Okay, I have a feeling he's probably going to wait till 7.1.
That's correct.
Okay, with that, why don't we go ahead and move down to 7.1. So item 7.1 is the proposed water and sewer rate schedule and charges and collection of the capital finance charges on the property tax roll. We welcome everyone here tonight for the public hearing portion of the meeting, during which we will discuss and deliberate the proposed water and sewer rate schedule and charges and the collection of the capital finance charges on the property tax roll. Tonight's hearing is being simulcast on Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. If you are viewing this live stream on Facebook or YouTube and wish to provide public comment, please go to the district's website at YLWD.com and follow the link to tonight's Zoom meeting that's posted on our homepage. As part of tonight's proceedings, the board will consider all written protests and receive public comment associated with the proposed rate schedule and charges. Written protests will be accepted until the close of public hearing. So we can still accept written protests. By law, only one written protest per parcel can be considered valid when submitting by either the property owner or the tenant who is liable for payment of the rate of the rate and charges. If a majority protest is not received, the board of directors may choose to adopt the proposed rate schedule and charges. I'd like to quickly highlight some of the district's public outreach efforts for this matter. On May 12th, we had a virtual town hall. I think it might have been our first virtual town hall ever. That the proposed rate and charges, that the proposed rates and charges and responded to questions from the public submitted through YouTube and Facebook chat features. We also mailed a notice of this evening's event to the property owners of every parcel in the district service area and all customers of record. We posted to social media channels notifying the public about tonight's hearing. We solicited questions and comments via email and posted a rate calculator on our website to help customers understand the impact of the proposed rate and charges. I hope everybody got a chance to use the calculator to put in there, how many units you use and what would change, how much your bill would change. We also responded to customers' questions over the phone and even in person at the district headquarters. Finally, we look forward to listening to the public comment tonight and appreciate everybody's participation. At this time, we'll officially open the public hearing, after which the general manager will present a verification of the public hearing notice and provide a report to the board requiring the proposed water and sewer rate schedule and charges and the collection of the capital charges to the property tax roll. During this time, a team will be opening and tabulating written protests, which you will be able to view via Zoom. That's one of the cameras that is on right now. So you can see, in that room. It looks like 2 people are opening and sorting out the protest letters that we received. With that, I think I'm turning it over to am I turning over to Brett? Are we going to you right now?
Yes, thank you, President Hawkins. I'd like to present the board with the verification that a notice of public hearing was mailed on April 22nd, 2021. Notice was sent to the property owners of all 29,149 parcels within the district's service area, as identified by the Orange County Auditor Controller Property Tax Unit, as well as all district customers of record. Copy of this verification will be retained in the district's records in accordance with established policy. And as far as written protests, you see there are 3 in the room now. AGM Davert is there. His number is posted on the front door of the YLWD headquarters, and if anyone still wants to bring their protest down, they can do that until the end of the public hearing. So if you get here and just send a text to Doug and he'll come out and pick that up from you.
Okay, with that, we'll go over to comment from the public. I'd like to open the meeting for the public comment. If you wish to speak on this matter, please raise your hand by pressing *9 if you're on your phone, or you can raise your hand if you're in the Zoom app, the Zoom website.
President Hawkins,
Yes.
in the order of the public hearing, we were going to do the report from the general manager prior to public comments.
You know what? I got excited and skipped right over that. Brett, you want to do your report now?
Absolutely, I'd be honored to. Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public. This is a report on the proposed water and sewer rate study, the FY 22 to 26 time period, and the proposed water and sewer rates for FY 2022 only. Let's go to the next slide, please. Just want to give everybody an overview of the district and why we do this. We are $1.07 billion in replacement value. That's in 2018 dollars. 56,000 individual items that we need to maintain. We do this with 79 full-time employees. We have 14 reservoirs, 12 booster pump stations, 9 groundwater wells. We have the ability to move water from 250 feet, which is the level of the Santa Ana River, all the way up to the highest point in the district, 1,390 feet. We have 19 separate pressure zones, almost 370 miles of water mains, 268 miles of sewer mains, and over 25,000 customers. Let's go to the next slide, please. Just want to give everyone a background on the rate study. The first board discussion on this new rate study occurred in 2019, and there was a discussion at the board, and the board opted not to go out to bid, believing it would be more cost-effective to stick with Raftellus, who had done the last one, and we would not have to pay to create a brand new rate model, which tends to be very costly. So we were given direction to create a rate really to hit 5 primary focus on 5 priorities. First is maintain the ability to pass through water and power increases on the commodity rate. This was very important. The last rate study did not allow a significant amount of those costs to be passed through onto the commodity rate, and so that was a priority for the board. The second one was to consider placing the capital finance debt charge on the property tax rolls. Third would be develop more usable reserves, and you'll hear us use that phrase throughout tonight, the whole usable reserves, to allow the district to fully fund CIP and provide more flexibility in responding to emergencies. 4, over a 10-year period of time, they wanted to establish a MET reserve fund equal to 1 year's purchase of MET water. And that's something because we knew with the construction of the PFAS plant that we're currently undergoing, that we would have to shift 100% onto MET water, which is about double the cost of groundwater. So the board felt it was important to set up a reserve fund specific to that purpose, so that in the future, if we ever had to do something significant, if there's a big groundwater contamination where we couldn't utilize it for a while, that we would have more or less a reserve fund to cover that extra cost. And then finally, it was important the board had established a policy to retire unfunded pension and OPEB debt early, but it had never really been fully implemented and fully funded, so that was another priority. Let's go to the next page, please. So on September 30, 2020, the board authorized a notice to proceed with Raftellus. November of that year, staff began formal meetings with Raftellus, providing schedules, projections. We developed the assumptions moving forward that would affect the rate study. We had the first board report from Raftellus on February 9th of this year. We were directed to make some adjustments. February 23rd, we had our second report, and we were given direction that the proper adjustments were made, move ahead towards the development of the rate study. Between February 23rd and April 13th, Raftellus prepared the actual rate study. And what the rate study is the broad outline, looking ahead 5 years, what the needs of the district are going to be, what the capital projects are going to be, and what rates will be required to justify that should increases be required. And that's a report that really is both, it's numerically and legally sound. And Raftellus has performed these for thousands of agencies around the country. April 13th, the board held a hearing. They received and filed the report, and staff was directed to send out a rate mailer outlining the 5 years of potential rate increases to roughly 29,149 parcel owners. And then tonight is the final hearing on the rate study and potential approval of rates for just FY22. Let's go to the next page, please. We were asked what the most common questions we received. Since April 22, our office has received roughly 32 phone calls and emails specific to the rate increase and the rate structure. Let's go to the next page where we have the answers. The first was, is there a senior discount? And unfortunately, the answer is no. The second one, which is an interesting question, do the written protests have to be handwritten? And the answer obviously is no. Let's go to the next page. Third, we got a lot of questions. What is the actual unfunded pension liability? And there are two unfunded liabilities which we're required by law to carry on the books. The first is the PERS liability, and this is for the overall pensions that have been awarded over the years by the district to employees and that they've earned. And the OPEB is the other post-employment benefit liability. And so it's roughly $10 million for PERS, $1.4 million for OPEB. We've established a Section 215 trust to assist in putting money aside to pay those down. We've only been able to make a few payments on that, but this is the outstanding liability. The board policy on paying down PERS is to do it over a 5-year period of or a 10-year period of time, and the OPEB over 5 years. Next question. What is funded by the capital finance debt? There's discussion that this capital finance debt will be, instead of collected monthly on the water bill, that it would be collected once a year on the property tax, very similar to what a lot of other agencies do. If you look at your property tax bill, there's $339 fee from the Orange County Sanitation District for capital charges, and Metropolitan has some charges there. And so the annual debt service is roughly $2.9 million. That's for the current debt service and the line of credit. And so I listed some of the items that have been funded by this debt service: the Highland Reservoir and Booster Pump Station, the Lakeview Reservoir and Booster Pump Station, the Hidden Hills Reservoir, the Fairmont Booster Pump Station, the Yorba Linda Booster Pump Station, portions of the PFAS plant that this district needs to pay up front, and the YLWD headquarters building. Let's go to the next page, please. So this is a, we're going to go through some items that we've discussed many times before. Most of our customers have 1-inch meters, and so these are the proposed rates for someone with a 1-inch meter, proposed FY22 to 26. Let's go to the next page, please. So you can see currently the far left column, we're at $37.18. The maximum we could go to at the end of the 5 years is $60.91. I think it's important to point out that that maximum increase is $23.73. If you recall, 5 years ago, the 1 year increase was $24.80. So even if we went to the maximum, that's still less than what was done 5 years ago. But the issue that I think we need to focus on is we're currently at $37.18. According to the previous rate study, we could be as high as $63.81. Our commodity rate today is $2.86, and it could have been as high as $4.02. So sometimes we've heard, and we've had a lot of people that have called in and said, why are my rates going up 161%? Well, they really aren't. The rates are going up this year. We have those actual rates that will be proposed to the board tonight. Let's go to the proposed FY22 column. Let's go back. There we go. And so $43.13, the commodity rate to $2.64. The commodity rate's going down slightly. The meter rate's going up slightly as well. Let's go to the next page. So for the typical customer, and this is something that we've used over and over again, 18 units is the average. So the monthly base charge would be $43.13. Commodity rate, $2.64 per unit. The PFAS, the monthly PFAS charge, which is currently on the bill, which will expire at the end of the year. And remember, that is a charge to help offset some of the additional cost of rolling 100% onto Met Water. The monthly sewer charge would be $9.55, and the annual capital finance charge would be $113.52. Let's go to the next page, please. So when you look at this customer, average customer, 18 units, 1-inch meter, from July to December, the 1-inch meter charge is going from $37.18 to $43.13. That's an increase of $5.95. The 18 units is going from $51.48 down to $47.52. So that's a savings of $3.96. The capital finance charge, which actually will not be on the monthly bill, but I wanted to put it here for full transparency, works out to $9.46 a month. The PFAS impact fee, July through December, is $5.66. It's the same that we have today. And then the sewer fee is going from $8.10 up to $9.55. So that's an increase of $1.45. So from July to December, this average customer would see their monthly bill go up roughly $12.90. And mind you, that $9.46 capital finance charge is included. Let's go to the next page, please. This is what your actual bill will look like, because that capital finance charge will be just on your property taxes. The $5.95 increase in the 1-inch meter, $3.96 decrease for the commodity rate. PFAS is the same, and the sewer fee goes up $1.45, so you'll see an increase of $3.44 a month. Let's go to the next page, please. From January to June, and what's important here is that PFAS impact fee is coming off the water bill. And we told the community this will only be on February to December. This will sunset in December. So in January to June, that meter increase will still be $5.95. The water cost will still go down $3.96. That $9.46 for the capital finance charge is still there. We're adding it here for transparency once again. That PFAS impact fee comes off, and the sewer rates go up $1.45. So you have a net increase, even with capital finance charge, of $7.24. Let's go to the next page, please. And this is what the actual impact will be that you'll see on your monthly bill. Your bill will actually go down $2.22 because taking the PFAS impact fee out means there is a reduction. So let's go to the next page, please. When we talk about reserves and reserve levels, there's something known as usable reserves. Part of our credit rating depends on the amount of reserves we have, the days cash on hand. And those are important calculations to make sure we maintain our AA credit rating, because we have bonds that are outstanding. We have investors that have invested in these. We have ratings firms that rate our agency. And we're not allowed to dip into the reserves to in any manner that would create a problem with that rating and the days cash and the usable reserve. So we've created this chart that shows what the actual amount of usable reserves are in each year. So we're thinking 781,000, that's our projection for the end of this year of actual usable reserves that we could have. And not just because they're usable, we're going to spend them, but that we have the flexibility to dip into them and then pay them back. For next year, it's a much tighter year. We have half a year, roughly, of met water purchases, increased O&M for the new PFAS plant. We're anticipating only 10,666 in usable reserves. The year after that, we begin to build up the reserves in the plan to 5.7 million, 9.7, and so on and so forth. Let's go to the next page, please. So I've got some final comments on this next page, please. This proposed rate structure really creates the ability for us to pass through water and power increases on the commodity rate. If you remember, one of the issues 5 years ago was the state came in and mandated a 36% cut. One of the things the board wanted to make sure we had in this rate structure is the ability for those rates to float independently of other fixed costs. So in other words, if the state comes in, says you have to cut 36%, there's not going to be an impact on the budget. That cost for your water is just the sole commodity cost, the treatment cost, and the cost of the power to move that water to you. And so if you use less water, you'll be charged less. The second thing it does is we place the capital finance debt charge on the property tax roll. And that has a lot of benefits. I believe that will increase the creditworthiness of the district, potentially to a AAA level in discussions with the rating agencies. This is something that they really like to see, because then that annual capital finance debt payment that we have to make is guaranteed, and it's guaranteed by property tax revenue. Third, we develop more usable reserves, which will allow us to fully fund our CIP and provide more flexibility. From time to time, we have major pipelines that break, and they can cost upwards of $1 million to repair. And this provides that flexibility if it's a pipe that wasn't planned to be replaced in the CIP plan for that year. We don't have to shuffle and put off another project to fund this emergency. We have that flexibility and ability to be responsive to that. Fourth, it establishes this new Met reserve to fund over 10 years an amount equal to 1 year's purchase of Met water. I wish boards would have done this 10 years ago because we wouldn't have needed the PFAS impact fee. And then five, it actually implements a plan to pay down those unfunded pension and OPEB liabilities. Let's go to the next page, please. So our recommendation, we have three recommendations. There are three resolutions that will be passed or voted on tonight. The first is establishing the new water rate schedules for next year. The second is establishing the new sewer rates for next year. And then finally, adopting a resolution to place that capital finance charge on the property tax roll for collection and remittance to the district. Let's go to the next page, please. And that's it. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I believe at this time, Mr. President, it's time for comments from the public.
Yes, yeah, my speaker's on. Yes, I'd like to open the meeting to the public comment for items 7.1 through 7.3. If you wish to speak on this matter, please raise your hand if you're on the Zoom, or press *9 if you're on your telephone. As a reminder, comments are limited to 3 minutes, and the secretary will call your name and then unmute you. So be prepared if you do raise your hand. Be prepared because the secretary will unmute you and call your name for you to go ahead and speak. And then if you need access to Zoom, you can go to our main page at Yorba Linda Water YLWD.com, and it's on our home page. With that, Annie, do we have any hands raised? And you can start calling on anybody that does have their hand raised.
Yes, the first speaker would be Mike Collins.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As a 32-year resident of Orange County in Yorba Linda, I have remained largely ignorant as to the technical aspects of the management of the district. When I received the flyer in the mail, it caught my attention for a couple of reasons, and subsequently I've learned a lot about how technical and difficult it is to manage an enterprise of this size and complexity and significance. Nonetheless, I think that there's a credibility gap in the process. As I read through the consultant's report, I had to ask myself, who are these people? What is their relationship with the district? Now, previously, the summary helped me understand what their qualifications were, but in a normal governmental entity, there's an RFP, there's a chance for other experts to bid on the process, and there's some objectivity to the process. There are several areas that I highlighted in my protest letter that I found very serious that I won't mention here because I know that you'll respond to those later. So the first thing I want to talk about is qualifications of the consultant. I have no idea. I have no idea. As a customer, I have no idea in terms of credibility of the process. The second thing is, and I was just happy, I was really pleased to discover this today, that in the strategic plan that was written fiscal year 19, goal number 2, initiative number 3, talks about equitable rates. There was been absolutely no mention in terms of equity comparing us to other districts, comparing what we're being asked to provide in terms of additional resources and costs for similar levels of service. That's one area that I think would help maintain or develop a better level of credibility. Similarly, there's really no discussion of rates in other districts in similar kinds of circumstances, similar demographics, similar size, etc. The last thing that I would suggest is we give serious consideration, given, as the previous speaker talked about, given the economic situation that we have found ourselves in for the last 14, 15 months. Many of us are challenged financially now as it is. Additional costs, although not significant in terms of actual dollars, any additional costs are going to create additional liabilities and tension for us as customers. What I would suggest is that we take a closer look at the unfunded liabilities associated with the pension and other salary and benefits, and see if there's a way to defer those out into the time when the reserve fund, I think it's 2 years out, the reserve fund would be more substantial, and to see if that wouldn't be the opportunity for us that presents a more responsible approach to paying those down rather than implementing those immediately. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mike.
The next speaker is Bill Amend.
I thank you for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Bill Amond. I've been a resident in Yorba Linda since 1985. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to do some preparation of rate case materials for the Public Utilities Commission on behalf of Public Utility, and also performed a role as an intervener basically on the other side of CPUC proceedings regarding rate cases. And in those cases, there's an opportunity for people to really scrutinize the details of the budget and to challenge the validity of some of the proposed expenditures, whether it be capital or labor and other expenses. And it's not clear at all who, in this case, is performing that same role. Perhaps the board members are doing it, but if so, I'd be interested in the extent to which they have actively challenged some of the proposed expenses and proposed future expenditures by the staff of the water district.
Thank you, Bill.
The next speaker is Steve V.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, President Hawkins, and to the general manager. My name is Steve Vartanian, and resident in Yorba Linda. A question I have to the GM said we could ask him a question. You mentioned that there's 3 decisions to make tonight. So if a person put in a protest tonight, would that cover all 3 of the choices you outlined?
Generally, a protest is, if you're protesting the rates, it would cover all 3 because the 3 different resolutions that have to be approved as action by the board deal with the rate and the rate study. So yes, it would cover all 3.
Okay, so when they're tabulating the 3 volunteers are tabulating the results. So if somebody puts in a protest, it'll go against all 3. If they put in I'm in favor of it, it'll be in favor of all 3.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you, Steve. Andy, before you call the next person, I forgot to mention, and I'm doing it personally, but if staff could kind of keep a record of these comments, if we see repeating comments, it's something that we can address when we bring it back to the board for discussion as well.
Not a problem, Mr. President. We're keeping copious notes as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Please proceed, Annie.
The next speaker is Al Netterhood.
Mute. Mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I thought I'd be active. So let me start again. Good evening, board members. We all know the cliche that those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. So I'd like to revisit the last rate study done in 2015. What can we learn from that? Let me get to the right to the bottom line, net income. Net income for the district was projected to total just over $20 million. That was the actual net income. What was the actual net income for this 6-year period? Net income was over $43 million. And that did not include the $2 million for which rebates were paid. The projected net income significantly missed the actual bottom line for every year, not by small amounts, but by 100, 200, and even 1,000% in 1 year. Some like to justify this error by being conservative in the estimates. Excuse me, error rates this large are not due to being conservative. The answer is simple and deadly. It's due to fear. None of us wants to be a part of a poorly run district or failed water delivery system. The 2021 study attempts to provide an objective sheen, but it's a facade. Fear drove the huge unnecessary increases from 6 years ago. Fear is supported by the poorly done 2015 study. It's the same today. 5 years ago, one of the current board members confessed to me that he never should have voted for those erroneous rate increases. He wished he had voted differently. You can avoid this regret tonight. Vote to change the increase. Some would retort that those financial results are due to underspending on infrastructure. This and previous boards supposedly took the easy way out and underspent on infrastructure. Over the last 5 years, this board has not underspent on infrastructure. This accusation is a canard based on a simplistic analysis of the P&L. Yorba Linda Water District has spent almost twice as much on infrastructure versus the dollars that management likes to reference. A majority of supplies and services, along with debt payments on bonds, are legitimate expenditures to support infrastructure. What does all this mean for the future? First, the erroneous projections seen in the past are being repeated in this study. The current year's budget calls for just $3 million in net income. Using March 2021 actuals, the more likely result is that net income will come in at $6 to $7 million. Once again, an error rate of over 100%. This error of at least $3 million ripples through the entire rate study, totaling close to $20 million over the 6 years. Second, other errors in the assumptions and details of the study add another $10 to $15 million in inflated cost. Third, in a period of record low inflation rates, approving a water increase of 10% is obviously indefensible. What's the bottom line? The 10% rate increase on water service is clearly excessive and not justified due to the poor projections in the 2021 study. A more modest and justified increase of 5 to 6% would keep the district safe, solid, and well run. I would encourage this board, do not repeat the errors of 2015 by being driven by this poorly done study. You can achieve a well-run district and solid financial results by approving a more modest and appropriate increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
President Hawkins, I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay. With no other hands raised, we will, the next section we'll go to is, are we done collecting? I'm going to turn it back over to the GM, and he talked about the written communication from the public.
I believe everything has been delivered and picked up. We did a sweep of the PO box this afternoon. I see that all three of them are still counting, so it means Mr. Dabbert has not been notified that there are any others to be picked up. So I believe now that the public hearing or the public comments are over, that it's closed and no more will be admitted.
Correct. So I have 7:17 as the time. So how close are they? Do we need to take a quick break, or do we have, what's the next step?
We could take a break. I'll ask and see how close are they to being completed?
I was told 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. General Manager?
Yes, sir.
We're still opening the protest envelopes and getting them in order. As soon as we're finished with that, we'll count them. Yeah, I would say at least 15, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, but we're going through them as fast as we can.
Okay.
We'll be right back to you.
Okay.
President Hawkins and General Manager Barbary, another option is just to deem all received protests as verified and are validated, and to then move on, and then to move forward with the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Gagan. We're in the process of doing that now. We are deeming them all appropriate. Our estimate right now is that we're not going to be approaching the threshold So we should be fine, but we're going to count them up for you here in just a few minutes.
Sounds good.
The issue, Andrew, is that we have envelopes that have multiple protests in them. So just counting the envelopes doesn't do it.
Understood. Thank you.
We have to open them. Thank you.
So my question to the GM is, do we take a break at this point, or can we proceed with? Go ahead.
So, Mr. President, I would suggest, and if council agrees with this, we can currently suspend 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3 and take up the consent calendar and deal with some of those items. And hopefully, by the time we've concluded with that, they may have concluded the count.
Okay.
And as long as Andrew's comfortable with that.
I am, thank you. Yes, just to be clear that the public hearing was closed at 7:17. We are suspending 7.1 through 7.3 and moving into the consent calendar, correct?
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Then for those on the line, we expect in about 20 minutes the counting to be done, and we'll get that report back, and it will go back to 7.1 to 7.3. In the meantime, we're going to continue with our agenda, and I suspect we probably have about 10 to 20 minutes of the agenda, and then we'd go back to 7.1 to 7.3. So without any objection from other directors, let's go on to the consent calendar. Is there any items that wish to be pulled by any of the directors on the consent calendar?
Yes, Mr. President, this is Director Jones. I would like to pull item 8.5 for further discussion, please.
Sure. Item 8.5 will be pulled. Anything else? Not hearing any. I'd like to go ahead and can I get a motion to move the rest of them?
I'll move the balance. Jones?
I will second the balance.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the balance of the consent calendar. Annie, can I get roll call?
Director Lindsay.
I vote yes.
Director DeRoche.
Yes.
Director Jones.
Yes.
Vice President Miller.
Yes.
President Hawkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Perfect. And now let's take up item 8.5. Go ahead, Director Jones.
Yes. What I would like to do here is get a clear explanation of 8.5 by the general manager, if possible, please.
Not a problem. Director Jones, thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss item 8-5. We had a brief discussion on this afternoon, and we verified everything was accurate with our bond counsel. The purpose of this resolution, this is a reimbursement of cost resolution, that it's a tool that's utilized by public agencies that do capital finance borrowing and participate in capital finance projects. This allows us to recapture costs expended before the capital finance bond is issued. So for instance, this stipulates that 18 months from now, we believe that there will be a capital finance borrowing by this district to pay for certain capital projects. There are also capital projects underway right now. And so what this resolution will allow is that we can utilize this resolution back 60 days and forward at least those 18 months and include those projects in the capital finance issuance. And from that point, as you know, once a bond is issued, you have 3 years to spend down that money. So as you know, in our CIP plan, if you look at on page 133, 172, we have roughly over the next 4 years, 5 years, $34 million in capital finance projects, and many of these would be eligible.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there other discussion by other directors? Questions?
I have a question. So we actually get 3 years going forward and 18 months going backwards, is what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. As you know, I served on the Met board for about 10 years, and Met does these every single year to make sure they can capture as many of the capital costs and include them in their capital financing. So this is just a standard routine item. Our bond counsel does these for agencies all over the place. This is very routine. And it allows the 3 years ahead and the 18 months back plus 60 days.
Thank you. I think one thing we looked at is that the notice of tonight's minutes and the recommendation of 30 million should be 35 when there's because the resolution does say 35.
You're correct, Director Miller. We did correct that for the record. Under recommendation, the third line, it should state 35 million instead of 30 million. It is correct in the motion, recommended motion, and the resolution.
That's correct. Thank you very much.
Anything else? If not, I will move the recommendation for the 35 million by the staff.
So my paperwork says 30. So does the motion need to be move the amended recommended?
Yes.
Well, yeah, Mr. President, the resolution states 35.
Okay.
If you go to section 3 of the therefore clauses, maybe up to 35 million.
And that's the motion Director Jones just made, correct, Director Jones?
Yes, that's correct.
And do I have a second?
Phil, the agenda today stated 30, so they're going to correct that in the minutes, but the resolution you will sign says 35.
Perfect. Director Miller, did I hear you just second that?
Sorry, it was mute. Yeah, I was going to say the agenda circulated says 30, but the resolution attached to the recommendation says 35, and I second it.
Perfect. I have a motion and a second. Annie, can I get roll call?
Director Lindsay.
Yes.
Director DeRoche.
Yes.
Director Jones.
Yes.
Vice President Miller.
Yes.
And President Hawkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That moves us down to our presentations. Do we have any elected officials liaisons report?
I believe we have 2 elected officials, and I'm aware of that are online. Either one of them are free to speak on issues, reports from their agencies. I see Councilman Hernandez has his hand raised.
Sure, let's start with Councilman Hernandez.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Nothing to report at this point for the city of Yorba Linda. We're waiting with bated breath to hear your outcome. We are otherwise doing well. We're anticipating, we're trying to figure out what the governor is going to do as far as normalcy. The 15th sounds like it's still, there's some equivocation, so we're not sure what's going to happen there. We will not be prepared to go live in June, so it'll probably be closer to May when we actually go to our first, I'm sorry, July, when we actually go to our first face-to-face meeting. So that's where we're at right now. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. General Manager, anybody else?
I do not see any other hands raised. I was hoping to hear whether we have a GM at Met or not, but they may still be in closed session.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 9.2, which is our federal and state legislative update.
Mr. President, That, I believe, ordinarily would be given by Allison Martin. She is in counting protests, so I believe she emailed out the report to everybody. There's really not a lot to report on the state level. The really noxious water legislation has been turned into 2-year bills. And I think that's pretty much the gist of it. So I believe she'll be emailing out that report, and we'll be posting that on the website.
Perfect. Thank you. That moves us down to item number 10, which is, does any directors have any reports?
I don't have I had one update. Those of us that attended some of the recent meetings know that I think it's 39 of the counties now in California are in a drought situation. And I think that those of us that attended Waco the other day saw that the Colorado River was on their histogram of amount of water delivered to surface was something like the 3rd lowest they've ever recorded. And in California, the northern part was like the 4th lowest ever recorded. So I think that the discussions about trout and preparing for it, are real and something we need to continue following. More than real.
Director Miller, that is an outstanding point. I will add to this. I believe at Metropolitan this week, they had a study. They released kind of a report on the expected sales for this year. They're expecting roughly 1.75 million acre feet of water to be sold by Met. They're going to get about 1.1 million out of the Colorado River Aqueduct. As you know, the State Water Project is at a 5% allocation. They're going to end up needing to pull about roughly 600,000 acre feet out of storage. I think they started the year with 3.2 million acre feet. So at the end of the year, they'll still have 2.5 million acre feet of water in storage. And really, that's a testament to the investments, the huge capital investments that Southern California ratepayers have made throughout the years in building storage, investing in the groundwater replenishment system, investing in desal, investing in water use efficiency. It's been interesting to see that this governor seems to be declaring droughts by region. And so far, he's not declared one within the Met service area, which kind of leads me to think that he's looking at the different regions differently than Governor Brown did. Governor Brown, who did some good things in the water when it came to the shortage, he was very big on making everyone share in the pain, whether you had water or not. Governor Newsom, I think, is being a little more tentative with this. So it remains to be seen. In Southern California, as you know, we pretty much live in drought situations all the time, but we've made the investments in storage, water use efficiency, things like that, where we prepare for these, and we're able to withstand 5-7 year droughts without any issues. Same thing with a lot of the farmers. The challenge now is they're getting such a zero allocation from both the state and federal water resources. So I'd be very concerned about the farming industry in the state and their ability to get enough water. To me, this really underscores the need for building more storage in this state, and especially Northern California, and in fixing the Delta issue. Thank you.
I mean, in perspective, I'm looking at a chart that they handed out. So Orville, which we all know had that big problem with overflooding, is at 46% of the historic average now. Well, this was the end of May. And Shasta is at 52% of their historic average. Trinity, 61. So all those northern, Folsom, 46%, all those storage in the north are really, at low levels.
I think
no, you're absolutely correct. I'm sorry, Director Jones.
I was going to say, I think we're very fortunate to have not only Diamond Valley Lake, which Met has provided local storage for us in Southern California, but also, especially for Yorba Linda, our groundwater basin is pretty much full. And we are prepared now that we have the Fairmont pump station, and when we will have the water treatment, the PFAS water treatment facility, we will be able to provide a lot of groundwater, which can save us when Met is running a little bit short. But Met has good reserves still for a couple of years here. So we're in pretty good position here. But the valley, where they grow a lot of food, is really hurting bad because they've got to pump if they want to grow the food. And that means they're sinking down toward China. So not good.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, having worked on these Western regional issues and national water issues. It's always important. There are 4 numbers that I like to point to when you're in California water. And those 4 numbers are 32, 16, 15, and 60, 60. 32 and 16 go together in that the average flows into the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta on the average year are roughly 32 million acre feet of flows. And we have roughly 16 million acre feet of storage, which is 50%. On the Colorado River Basin, which has been in drought for almost 20 years, they have an average flow of 15 million acre feet down the river, but they have the ability of storing up to 60 million acre feet. So 4 times the average flows they can store, which means in the Colorado River Basin, they can capture every drop that falls in that watershed. In California, we can capture less than 50%. And that's why we're perpetually in drought. There's simple things that we could do. We could raise Shasta. We could build Sites Reservoir. We could build Temperance Flats. Metropolitan got tired of having to give up their state water rights when there were shortages, and that's why they invested and built Diamond Valley Lake. That was a $3 billion investment for Southern California, but it's paid off. It's allowed us to take that water, store it, and keep the groundwater basins full. And between that and a lot of the storage agreements we've established throughout the years, that's why we started the year with 3.2 million acre feet of water in storage, and we'll end the year with roughly 2.5 million acre feet. And so we're very, very fortunate to live in the Met service area.
Any other directors have any items they want to bring up?
President?
Yes.
I'd be interested to hear Director DeRoche's comments, if any, about what is the feeling up at Met Water right now. Are you under a lot of stress? Are you keeping up? What do you hear anything from the insider standpoint that might be interesting to us as far as Met's capabilities?
Well, I can offer this as the manager of the Damer plant. The Damer plant can serve water to Orange County and the LA Basin. And in fact, typically on an average, we meet half of the demands in Orange County, and that's half of what we treat through the treatment plant itself. The rest goes to the LA Basin area. And the Damer plant, along with the Weymouth plant, is 100% Colorado River right now. That's been unusual over the last 5 to 10 years. We've usually had some state project water to treat. But the good thing about the Damer plant, which Yorba Linda Water District receives as needed, has the flexibility of treating either supply. So right now we're going with what we have, and that's Colorado River. And from my perspective over the years of experience, Damer plant flows are up compared to normal because we can treat Colorado River water. So we're finding that we're pushing that water much further throughout the distribution system to include other parts of the LA and Orange County basin areas. So while I don't have to worry about the bigger picture of how water gets to Metropolitan, I do know what happens to it once we get it at the Deemer plant and the flexibility that we have. So it's kind of business as usual, but kind of not. I get the benefit of just being able to treat what they give me and make sure that we can keep the plant running consistently and meeting all of the regulations. So I guess that's good news.
That sounds like good news to me. Any other directors?
I was just going to mention that at the Yorba Linda City Council meeting, City of Yorba Linda approved a new Yorba Linda flag. I thought that was very interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, I heard there was nothing controversial about it either.
There were some interesting comments that I got to listen to. So, but I think that they did approve a design, and I haven't seen it flying yet, but I've been looking for it.
Any other directors' reports? If not, I'll move into the general manager's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the board. Really not a lot to report tonight. As you know, the governor is planning to open everything up the 15th. We're pretty much open. We will be open the 14th. The challenge we're having is Cal OSHA is still trying to decide what kind of mask policy there's going to be. As you know, our agency, we've tracked COVID very closely. We're one of only 2 water agencies that was open with everybody showing up to work through the entirety of COVID. There are still many water districts in the county where people are working from home, which to me is just offensive. We were here every day because we have a public to serve and we have a mission to accomplish. So roughly 75% of the team members here at YLWD are fully vaccinated. One of the challenges we're seeing with the Cal OSHA requirements is that if you're in a room with fully vaccinated folks, it appears you'll be allowed to take your mask off. But if there's one person in the room that is not vaccinated, everyone has to remain masked. So it's a little, we're still trying to get it clarified. Cal OSHA's voted 2 different times, 2 different ways. They're still trying to figure it out. The governor really hasn't weighed in. Allegedly, an administrative law judge is going to weigh in next week. So that's really the only unknown as far as opening up YLWD. Most of our customers do all of their transactions online. 98% of all water bills that are paid, we never actually touch with our fingers because it's either processed automatically or goes through a credit card bill pay type system. So we will be we'll be fully open next week, and looking forward to folks coming in and seeing us again. And we're also looking forward to hopefully providing more of the public tours so they can see the infrastructure. I will stipulate at this point the count is completed.
Brett, before you do that, we only have
yes.
like 1 or 2 more items on the agenda, and then we can go back to 7.1 to 3.
Perfect. That concludes my report.
Thank you. General Counsel, do you have any report?
Wait a minute, Phil, I had a question.
Yes.
Of the general manager. So
yeah.
Will the bill payment holiday or whatever the government called it end at the end of June, the end of this month, or how is that? What's going to happen at the end of June? I know for some of the utilities it ends. I don't know about water.
Yeah, we have not seen that. We're still tracking it pretty closely. We're still trending 90 to 92% of our customers pay their bills in the first 27 days. We're very fortunate in that way. We really don't have a lot of delinquencies. We have a handful that we're tracking them, and we're keeping tabs on them, but we have not been notified that he's going to lift the no shut-off provision. He appears to be extending the no eviction mandate, and a lot of the federal money that's coming in is going for a lot of those purposes. I will state there are quite a few folks in cities. A lot of the cities are really struggling in ways that we aren't. So we've been very, very fortunate.
So I know that it was in February that they they agreed to extend the end of February deadline to the end of June for electric, but they haven't had any decision, is what you're saying, on water?
Nope.
Okay. And then I think there's been some discussion about some of the some people getting help from the state to pay their electric bill, and there was some discussion about some of those funds going to help pay water bills. Are we tracking that in the state legislation?
Yes, we are tracking that. It is one of those issues where a lot of the money's going to the cities first. I remember at the very beginning of this, city of Anaheim was losing over $1 million a day, and they had early on 2,200 water and power customers that said they could not pay their bills. So a lot of the cities have been hit a lot harder than a lot of the special districts have been. Certainly the socioeconomic tendencies of this district a little bit higher than some of those other communities. As you know, Dr. Miller, a lot of the money goes to the DCs, the disadvantaged communities, and I don't think there's anyone in the state that can credibly state that Yorba Linda is a disadvantaged community. There are a handful of disadvantaged zip codes in the county of Orange, and most of them are north of Irvine and Santa Ana, Anaheim, La Habra has a few. A lot of the communities, they'll be getting the funds before any in our community. But certainly, we're tracking this. We work with private agencies and entities that help out people that truly struggle, and our customer service folks are great to work with them.
Yeah, I've always found it interesting that when you look at the map of California for the disadvantaged communities, they use red. So it's almost like they're redlining them. But you can see the districts, like you said, in Anaheim, Fulton, especially Riverside, different degrees of red. Anyways,
right.
I don't know how they did that, but sort of interesting.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for the GM? If not, General Counsel's report.
I have no report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any future agendized items or staff tasks for from the directors? Not hearing or seeing any. Committee reports are attached. With that, let's go ahead and go back to item 7.1 to 7.3. And Brett, will you go over the written communication from the public?
Thank you very much, President Hawkins. Members of the board, the Secretary's office received 413 written protests in regards to the proposed water and sewer rate schedules and charges and the collection of the capital finance charge on the property tax. There were 29,149 authorized parcels, folks that were authorized to submit a vote. The number of protests required to defeat the proposed rate schedule is 14,575. The percentage of parcels that were protesting, 1.4%. Percentage of parcels not protesting, 98.6%. We have not validated the protests that were submitted. In other words, we did not fully vet to determine that they indeed were representative of the parcel in question. We take them at face value that they are, and so we just assume for the record that they all are 100% valid. So with that, 413 protests were submitted for 1.4%. It did not meet the threshold of 14,575.
Okay. Thank you, General Manager. With that, we'll bring it back to board discussion. Board members, I'd like to hear from you regarding the proposed rate structure. You don't all have to speak at once.
This is Trudy. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding, and it's very clear that we are voting only on the possible rate changes for fiscal year 21-22.
That is correct.
Nothing further than that.
We're only voting for 1 year.
And any further changes will be voted on at a later date. Is that correct?
So if the proposal as it's presented is currently approved by us, that gives us the maximums for each year. But today we are approving the 5-year study, and then we're only voting on the rate increase for this year only. Each year would have to take it up again. But we set our maximums today.
Thank you.
So,
President, I have a comment.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say we're voting on the rates for the coming year and the rate report?
Yes. Yeah, but part of the motion tonight is you've already received and filed the report, sent it out to the public for either affirmation or rejection. It was not rejected. Now it comes back. Part of the motion is the board approves, and then they establish the rates for fiscal 21-22. And that's it.
Director Lindsay.
Thank you, President. I have a very quick comment. I really appreciated the question of Bill Amend, I think was his name. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He asked a very deep question. I think the gist of his question was, who is going to be the advocate, or who is going to be monitoring this over time to make sure that they're appropriate? And I take that question very personally, and have from the get-go since I've been on the board, from the beginning of the year. I think he asked almost verbatim, he said, will the board be the ratepayers advocate for this? And was concerned about which individual would have their eyes on it. I felt, like I said, strongly about that very point, strong enough to where yesterday I asked if the general manager would meet with me, and he pulled in the financial folks, and I had a meeting with them for about a half an hour talking about this very issue. It's as I look through the reports that are generated on a monthly basis, which are budget to actual reports, which of course show us if the rates that we've put in place are indeed what we budgeted, what our budgeted need was, because of course we can't make any money in this agency, and we don't intend to make money. We operate on behalf of the people. And so those reports, as I've dived into them, I find to be very detailed and sometimes challenge my intellect as far as, can I quickly look at them and see where we stand? And so I proposed a question to staff yesterday for my own good about could we simplify and pick a couple of items in that report and maybe have a report quarterly from them as to whether we're on track, budget versus actual, other than the complete financial statement. For example, there's a table in the report, I think it's 2.1, that mentions the assumptions, the major assumptions that we made. And I would like to have a report quarterly from staff about whether our assumptions are on at the end of that quarter or shortly thereafter. Maybe not monthly, but quarterly, President. And that would give me an idea about, by the time we get to the end of the year, how are we doing? We've heard many times, in fact, Mr. Netterhood tonight reiterated that the rates that were put into place 5 years ago were seemingly high, and yet we never achieved those rates. We never came close to achieving those rates. And I'm not going to say today if we will achieve the rates that this rate proposal pretends. I wouldn't presume. However, I would like to be kept up to date, at least on a quarterly basis, in a very simplified method that staff promised yesterday they could put together for me. Clearly, that's a board decision, not mine, but they assuaged my concerns about my ability to be kept up to date through the year, so that by the time we come a year from now and we're voting on this again, we may have funds to apply towards next year. We may have undershot, but at least we'll be very informed. And so to Mr. Amend and all those other people out there wondering who the advocate is going to be, I, for one, feel very strongly that I'll be looking to that too. And my full expectation is my fellow board members will also, but they can speak for themselves. So thank you for that, President.
Thank you, Director Lindsay. I have some comments, but I'm going to wait for all the other directors to speak first. So any other director have any comments?
I have some.
Sure.
I'd like you to indulge me. What I've done here is I've taken some notes to explain what my vote as sort of odd man out in this is and why. And to a certain extent, I'm going to be echoing Director Lindsay in his comments. And I noted here that Ben Peralta wants lower rates, and that was my tendency to want lower rates where possible. And Bill Amon, I'm going to be directing exactly to you because, and this is how I'm echoing Director Lindsay, we are the ones that are supposed to be looking over this and making sure that the ratepayers are getting as good a deal as we can produce. The primary mission, I'm going to read my notes here. The primary mission of YLWD is to protect the health and safety of our community by providing reliable water and sewer service. Additionally, we strive to do this in the most efficient way possible while avoiding risk. And this is what Director Netterhood referred to, the fear factor. You know, the risk can be great. If we had one of our huge water lines under pressure explode and blow up a house or blow up a car into the air and so forth, it'd be a big mess and very expensive. So we want to catch this before that happens. We want to monitor our pipes very closely, and we do. The staff does a wonderful job of keeping track of what is in good shape and what may need to be fixed quickly. The board is also responsible for minimizing the rate impact on our ratepayers without significantly increasing the risk. So we don't want to have sudden, huge rate changes. So on April 13th, the board was presented with the draft rate study and made several policy guidance suggestions to improve the recommendations of the study while still moderating risk. I believe that more could have been done and should have been done to relieve the first year impact on ratepayers. Remember, that's what we're voting on, the first year. After the first year, we'll have a chance to look and see how we're doing and adjust. And especially those ratepayers that use less water. Therefore, I voted against accepting the study as modified and in favor of further deliberation. My colleagues disagreed. And with inflation likely to be a more significant factor in the next few years, their wisdom may prove prescient. It should be clearly understood that increases described in this rate study, and this has been said several times, and in our projection, are maximum rate levels. We cannot go above these levels without going through this process again. So it will always be less than or equal to those levels, not guaranteed equal to those levels, and probably not. In my opinion, it's very unlikely that we will need to use the maximum increases in the present plan. The board votes on the actual rate increases prior to activating them in future years, each year. So far, we've not found it necessary to use the full rate allowed by the 2015 plan. We're actually operating a year beyond the length of that plan. And if we had used the maximums, this average 18-unit person would be paying just for water $114.21 in 2020. Instead of $85.81. So you see, there's no guarantee that we're going to be going to these maximums. Then I have Mike Collins. You wanted a comparison. Let me give you a quick one. Also, it's useful to compare ourselves to other water suppliers close at hand. The residents of the Lock Ranch portion of Yorba Linda, they're our neighbors. They live in that little strip of that we do not serve for water. We serve them for sewer, but not for water. They will be paying, instead of our $2.64 per unit, they'll be paying $4.06 per unit for the first 13 units and $4.67 for the next 8 units, for a total of $76.10 just for the water, as opposed to the Yorba Linda $2.64, that's $47.52. So they're paying quite a bit more than we are for the commodity rate. However, I hope this explains why my vote must be no for the proposed rates, which I will intend to do here shortly. But I do clearly support the plans of the district to preserve the health and safety of the community, and this must come first. So maybe we were a little afraid, but it pays to be a little extra cautious. That's it.
I got a definite maybe out of Director Jones here.
You got to know.
I don't know. If I didn't get that last line right there, I was thinking you were voting for it. Any other director's
I have
comments?
some comments, unless Trudy wants to make some first.
Well, I can wait. If you guys don't cover it, I'll share some more later.
I mean, if it's okay, Mr. President, I'll make some comments. First, I really feel strongly about my obligation to the people who elected me. And I can share with you that I don't like to see my costs going up either, so, I mean, I feel the same stress that you do when you see bills go up. But, we try as your represented directors to look out the best for you. And my background is in engineering, and we're basically in the business of managing risk. We're not going to make it zero risk. We're not going to make it too risky, but some of us will probably be a little bit, but then it gets into a matter of opinion where you manage it to. But, for the most part, as an engineer, we tend to be a little bit careful. So whether it's financial or whether it's engineering, or whether it's, adding staff, we tend to be a little bit careful on a conservative side, maybe you would say. We don't have, when we need financial experts, we hire them just for the job, and then they're not, we don't keep them on our staff. The same thing with our general counsel. It's actually only here for the meetings or if something comes up. So when we're talking about operating expenses, Bill Amen was talking about, we do watch the operating expense because we know that those are passed on. When it comes to the capital expense that people, have some comments about, there we tend to use engineering judgment that comes from outside people. The rating agencies tells us about what we should be spending. We use, again, experts to tell us when to do that. The long and short of it is, when it comes to looking at the, what the budget is each year, there is this discussion. It's not simply that the staff puts it on the table and then we sail off, we rubber stamp it, because that doesn't happen. If you look at even this rate structure plan, it went through a number of iterations. I know we only showed one on the slide, but there was quite a bit of discussion from the original staff presentation to where the final plan ended up. Even in terms of operating, sometimes, we have a give and take between the staff recommendation and what your board members who are representing you see as a different path. So we are very conscious of spending your money and keeping it, is basically as affordable as we can. So, but we do manage risk. We don't make it zero. There is risk, in everything that we do, of course. So I want to thank you, all of you that are, that have elected us, elected me. And I really appreciate that honor and hope to continue, looking out for your interests. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Director Miller. Any more comments from board members?
I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents in as well. I heard the 5 main goals of the rate revisions. They were established by a previous group of directors, but one of the important ones that I keep focusing on is to be able to transfer power and water and power costs to the commodity rate. And I thought that that's an important part of this that that I try to keep focus on, because we have experienced in the past where reductions to our income based on usage of water has significantly impacted our abilities, to make ends meet. And so for me, this first vote is very important, and I'm in enthusiastic agreement with Director Lindsay that in subsequent years, it'll be important for us to look at how we're doing towards those goals so that we can decide if further changes rate increases need to be done. But this first one, I think, is very important to try and achieve that primary goals, to get our reliance off of, put the water and power costs over to the commodity rate. So that's one of the big things that I'm focusing on with this proposal and why I am in support of it.
Thank you. I think we heard from everybody. I did write down some comments. I'm going to try not to repeat some of the things that have been repeated. But I want to first off thank everyone that logged into our meeting today. I also want to thank all those that sent in their written communication. It shows that we do care about our community, no matter what side of the issue you fall on. Being active is important. I also want to thank our staff. Our staff has worked very hard on this 218, as well as during the pandemic. Not just a 218 part, but during the pandemic, and I think it was mentioned by our general manager, Yorba Linda Water, I think, was only one of 2 agencies in all of Orange County that has been open, employees coming in every day and us doing what needs to be done to make sure we had safe, reliable drinking water. Our GM and assistant GM were in every day between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning to check each person's temperature and make sure that we're meeting all the state guidelines. And just to clarify, I hate raising rates. It's one of I think I can probably speak for all the directors. We don't like raising rates. That's not something we enjoy doing. But if we didn't do it on occasion, we wouldn't be doing our job to make sure everything gets done. I'm probably repeating a couple things here, but the current rate structure that we have that was passed in 2015. The numbers, the maximum rates were about $63. We're at 37. The commodity, the water use is the maximum was at about a little over $4. We're at 286. I'm telling you that because when, at least in my mind, this is the way I look at it. When we propose this budget that we're putting forward, that's worst case scenario. We hope we never have to get to these numbers, because again, we have to look at worst case scenario. What happens? What can we do? Now, if you just want to look at the past 5 years, we haven't even come close to those increases. And I hope we never do have to come even close to those increases. One of the things that wasn't brought up tonight that I would like to bring up real quickly here, I don't want to go too far on it, but if we can pump more groundwater than what we're currently budgeting, that saves us money in the long run. And maybe we don't have to have any increases the following year, or very small increases, if we're able to use more groundwater and less of the expensive imported water. It was brought up tonight by a couple people. Mike Collins, his comments have been addressed regarding comparing to other districts. Lock Ranch, which is in the city of Yorba Linda, has Golden State Water, and that was already mentioned. You could also look at Brea. Brea is right next door to us. They are on a tiered system, and their rates are online. We are less expensive than them. But I'll tell you this: it is hard to compare apples for apples once you get a little bit farther out. Yorba Linda has extra power costs when it comes to pumping to higher elevations. The mix between groundwater and imported water, every city has a little bit different mix of how much they can take, how much is on the property taxes versus not on the property taxes. So Mike, if you're still on, it's a little hard to do a side-by-side comparison. But if you just want to look at a couple of those, you'll see that we're less expensive, but everybody's probably within the same ballpark, except maybe Irvine. Irvine's a lot more expensive than just about everybody else. Bill's comments have been addressed, and Al, I always appreciate your comments. I always appreciate our conversations. We're looking at next year right now of what we're raising our fees to, and just like in the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, we look at each year individually, and hopefully we don't have to raise rates, or if we do a very small amount. But again, we do budget for the worst case scenario. So Al, thank you for your comments on that. Like I said earlier, this isn't fun. Nobody likes raising rates, but if we've been following everything that we've been doing over the last, I would say, 4, 5, 6 months, we've been working on this. Our goal is to make sure you have clean, reliable, safe drinking water, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. So with that, I think I've heard from each director. Unless each director has any additional comments, I'll be looking for a motion on where you'd like to go.
Are we going to vote on the 3 resolutions separately or as a group?
I believe they have to be done separately, but I'll look at our attorney to tell us.
Yes, please, separately.
Yes.
And for the record, I just want to make sure, though we are adopting 5 years of rates as laid out in the rate study. The only rates that will be charged right now are the rates for FY22. So I just want to make sure that's clear. By adopting the rate study, you are adopting those 5 years of rates. Doesn't mean you're required to charge them. And I think it's important to reiterate that each year staff will bring back recommendations, and believe me, the board always scrutinizes that very, very closely before determining whether did we have more than we anticipated. And we're very excited about Director Lindsay's suggestion about tracking the assumptions and see how close we were with those. So thank you.
Do I have a motion from any of the directors?
I would make a motion to adopt, is it 2021? I don't.
6.
2021X6. I'm just looking at the, I don't know what the numbers are after that, so.
Vice President Miller, they will be numbered after they are adopted.
Okay.
That's it.
So
Mr. Miller, is that the water rate one?
Number 1's the water rate, yeah.
Well, this says new rate schedules effective July 1 and rescinding July 1.
So if I could, and correct me if I'm wrong, our general manager, item 7.2, at this point, we'd be adopting the water rate and the sewer rate on this resolution.
Yeah, correct. So you can actually just refer to resolution number 1, and that's the new water rate schedule. resolution number 2 is the new sewer rate schedule.
Are they separate votes?
Yes.
Okay, so I would move that we adopt the staff recommendation in which we've discussed extensively for resolution 1.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second for resolution 1, which is the water rate schedule.
And to be clear, we're referring to item 7.1 on the agenda.
It's actually 7.2 if I'm not mistaken.
Part 1 of 7.2.
Thank you.
That's correct.
7.2.
I'll get our attorney on the right page.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not any, can I get roll call?
Director Lindsay,
I vote yes.
Director DeRoche,
Yes.
Director Jones,
No.
Vice President Miller,
Yes.
and President Hawkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So now I'd be looking for a motion for the sewer.
Okay, I move that in item 7.2 that we adopt resolution number 2 related to the new sewer rate schedules.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not any, can I get roll call?
Director Lindsay,
I vote yes.
Director DeRoche,
Yes.
Director Jones,
No.
Vice President Miller,
Yes.
President Hawkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So that was the water and the sewer. Next would be 7.3, and this would be for putting the our long-term capital finances on the property tax roll.
I would move that we adopt resolution electing to place a capital charge on the property tax roll for collection and remittance to the district, starting with the year 2022.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Annie, can I get roll call?
Director Lindsay,
Yes.
Director DeRoche,
Yes.
Director Jones,
Yes.
Vice President Miller,
Yes.
and President Hawkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for your hard work and dedication, and as well as your input on all this. That concludes item 7 on our agenda. We've already completed item 8, which was our consent calendar. We completed item 9, which is our presentations. We completed item 10, which are our reports. Item 11 is our committee reports, and we do have the minutes from our June 7th meeting with the Yorba Linda City. If you want to refer to that, if you have any questions, we have nothing scheduled with the City of Placentia. Item number 12 is our board activities calendar. Please take a look at that. If you're assigned to attend something you're not able to, please let us know. We'll try to get that covered. And then item number 13 is our adjournment. We do have a special board meeting scheduled for Tuesday, the 22nd at 6:30. And just for, I'm going to be out of town, and I probably will not be logging on, although I know I could. I'm going to be on an island, so I plan on not logging on. So I will not be here. I apologize for missing that meeting. But with that, though, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I also will not be here, but I am able to log on that evening.
Okay, thank you. If you were going to say you couldn't log on, I was going to feel a little bit of pressure that I should. So thank you. Motion. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, roll call. I'm sorry. Do I have to do roll call for that? Andrew?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Annie, can I get a roll call?
Director Lindsay,
Yes.
Director DeRoche,
Yes.
Director Jones,
Yes.
Vice President Miller,
Yes.
and President Hawkins.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Motion carries.
And we'll see you soon. Thank you, staff, and thank you, directors.
Thank you, staff.